There are roads in this country that drivers avoid, not because of potholes or bad directions, but because of what happens when you're alone out there at 3 a.m., when your fuel gauge is ticking down, and the only thing keeping you awake is the drumming of your wheels on endless pavement. I'm going to tell you about 3 drivers who learned this the hard way. 3 stories, 3 nights. All real in the way that nightmares are real, in the way that your body remembers them even after your mind tries to forget. This is about what happens when the highway becomes a trap. Marcus had been driving for 16 years. 18-wheeler, cross-country routes, always on schedule. He knew every truck stop from Portland to Atlanta. He knew which ones had good coffee, which ones had sketchy bathrooms, which ones had drivers who'd steal your cargo if you blinked. But he'd never seen anything like what he saw on Highway 19 in the middle of Georgia. It was 2:47 a.m. His dispatch told him he was making good time. He was drinking cold coffee and listening to talk radio, some guy discussing conspiracy theories about missing persons. The kind of thing you listen to when you're fighting sleep on a long stretch. Then he saw her. She was standing on the shoulder in a sundress, not a jacket. Not proper clothes for a highway at this hour, just a pale yellow sundress. And she was waving him down like she was hailing a taxi at an airport. Marcus should have kept driving. Every instinct told him to keep driving. But something in the way she stood there, so small against the darkness, so desperate, made him downshift and pull over. She ran to the passenger side before he could even unbuckle his seatbelt. "Thank God," she said, climbing in. "Thank God someone stopped." She was real. Flesh and blood, not cold. Her skin was warm. She smelled like perfume and highway dust. She sat in the passenger seat and immediately asked him to drive. To keep moving, to not stop for anything. Marcus asked her name. She said Rebecca. Asked where she was going. She said anywhere but here. For the next hour, she didn't say much. She stared at the road ahead with her hands folded in her lap. Every time Marcus tried to ask questions, she'd give him one-word answers when he suggested they call the police. She shook her head hard, so hard her hair fell across her face. At the next exit, Marcus pulled into a 24-hour diner. He told her they should get some food, call someone, figure out what was happening. Rebecca's entire body tensed. "No," she said. "We can't stop here. Why not?" She didn't answer. She just stared out the windshield at the diner, at the 3 cars parked outside, and he could see her breathing getting faster. That's when Marcus noticed something. In the side mirror, the passenger side mirror, he could see the back of Rebecca's head. She was facing forward, looking at the diner, but in the mirror, he could see the back of her head and it was caved in, like someone had smashed it with something heavy. Blood matted in her hair. He turned to look at her directly. There it was, perfect skin, perfect face, both eyes looking at him. No wound, no blood. He looked back at the mirror. The wound was still there. Marcus didn't remember how they got back on the highway. He didn't remember driving. He just remembered speaking without thinking, asking her, "Where did you die?" Rebecca turned to look at him, and when she did, he could see through her, not completely, but like she was becoming translucent, like she was remembering that she wasn't there at all. "Exit 147, she said quietly. "That's where he left me, 3 years ago. I've been waiting for someone to help me get away from him. Someone to help me finish going wherever I'm supposed to go." Marcus kept driving. He drove until the sun came up. When he looked over, Rebecca was gone. At exit 147, there's a historical marker now. It commemorates a young woman named Rebecca Holloway who disappeared in 2021. The marker doesn't mention that she was found in a ravine 300 yards from the highway, or that the man who killed her is still serving his sentence 30 miles away. Marcus still drives that route, but he never picks up passengers at 3 a.m. anymore. Danny's rig broke down on a road he'd never seen before. It wasn't supposed to happen. He was on a highway he'd driven 100 times. But somewhere between the last mile marker and consciousness, he'd taken a wrong turn. His GPS had frozen. His phone had no signal. And then his engine died. It was 4 p.m. on a Tuesday. Gray sky pressing down like a lid. There was a truck stop about a quarter-mile ahead. Danny could see it. A small building with 3 pumps. A lot that looked empty. The kind of place that might not even have functioning bathrooms. But it was the only structure visible in any direction. He walked toward it. The door chimed when he entered. The sound was thin and strange, like it was coming from very far away. Inside, the lighting was dim. There was a counter with a cash register, an old one, mechanical, and behind it stood a man in a flannel shirt. The man was very still. Need help? The man asked. Danny explained the situation. Engine trouble, no signal. Asked if he could use a phone to call for a tow truck. The man just nodded and pointed to a phone mounted on the wall. As Danny was dialing, he noticed something. The calendar on the wall. It showed April 1987. The newspapers in the rack next to the coffee station, all dated 1987. There was a television playing in the corner, and it was broadcasting news from 1987. A accident on the interstate, a missing person alert. When Danny looked back at the counter, the man was watching him with complete stillness. Your truck, the man said. What year is it? Danny told him. 2019. The man's face didn't change. He said, you should get back to it before you can't. Danny left. He didn't remember leaving the building or walking back to his truck, but somehow he was there, and he knew without any doubt that he had maybe 3 minutes. The engine turned over on the first try. He floored the accelerator and drove. Not back the way he came. He didn't trust that road anymore, but forward, deeper into the gray afternoon. The truck stop vanished behind him. He drove for 2 hours without seeing another vehicle, another building, another sign of human life. Then the landscape changed. The road became familiar again. He recognized a road sign. He was 15 miles from the city, 15 minutes from civilization. When he pulled into a proper truck stop and walked into the bathroom, he looked at his reflection in the mirror and barely recognized himself. His hair had turned completely gray. The man looking back at him was 25 years older than the man who'd driven into that gray afternoon. Danny checked his registration. According to the date on his license, it was 2047. 28 years had passed in 2 hours. He called his dispatcher. His ex-wife answered. His ex-wife who'd remarried and moved away 10 years ago. She didn't know his voice at first. He had to convince her. She told him about his daughter, how she'd graduated college, how she'd become a teacher, how she'd stopped hoping he'd ever come home. Danny's still alive. He's in assisted living now, drawing Social Security and pension benefits from a company that went bankrupt in 1992. Nobody can explain what happened. The trip logs show he drove from point A to point B in 2 hours. The biometric data shows he aged a quarter century. He tells anyone who'll listen, there are roads that don't exist on any map. And sometimes, if you take a wrong turn and stop at the wrong place, you can lose everything to the kind of time that doesn't follow rules. He never drove again. Sarah was good at her job. She was methodical, professional, and she maintained her route with mathematical precision. She'd never had an accident, never violated a speed limit, never slept in her cab for more than 30 minutes at a time. She was on a 3-day haul through Nevada, the kind of route that's just mountains and heat and nothing else. When her radio started picking up a frequency she'd never heard before, it was a voice, male, calm, speaking directly to her. Hello, Sarah. I've been waiting for you to reach this part of the road. She tried switching frequencies. The voice followed. She tried turning off the radio. It stayed. Finally, she answered. Who is this? Identify yourself. I'm a driver, the voice said. Just like you. I've been driving this stretch for a very long time. Over the next hour, the voice told her things, small things at first, details about her route, her truck, her company, things he could have learned from a CB radio or basic research. But then he got specific. He told her about the accident she'd witnessed 3 years ago at an intersection in Arizona. A car had been hit by a freight truck. She'd stopped and tried to help, but the driver was already gone. The voice told her the driver's name, his age, his hometown. Things that were never released to the media. "How do you know that?" Sarah asked. "Because I was driving the truck that hit him," the voice said. Sarah's heart was moving so fast she thought she might be having a medical event. She tried to call dispatch. The radio wouldn't let her use the CB. It was just her and this voice. "The thing is," the voice continued, "the man I hit, he was already dead. He had been for 16 hours. His daughter had killed him in his sleep. She'd put poison in his medication. She knew he was worth more to her dead than alive. And she was right. She got everything. Got away with it completely. Why are you telling me this?" "Because you're going to pass through that intersection again tonight. And because I want you to understand something. The roads we drive, they remember every accident, every death, every moment of violence that happens on them. And sometimes, the people involved, they don't leave, they stay. They become part of the asphalt itself." Sarah drove faster. She didn't care about speed limits or fuel economy or dispatch protocols. She just wanted to get away from that stretch of road. But the road kept going, exit after exit passed. Highway signs blurred. The landscape never changed. Mountains, heat, emptiness, and the voice kept talking, telling her stories about other drivers, other accidents, other deaths. He told her about a woman driving a station wagon who'd deliberately driven off a cliff because her husband had left her. About teenagers street racing who'd wrapped themselves around a telephone pole. About a man who'd driven the same route for 40 years and one day just let go of the wheel and let gravity decide where he'd go. "They're all still here," the voice said. "All of them. We're all still driving. We never leave." Sarah saw an exit sign and took it. Reckless and violent. Her truck tilting as she hit the turn too fast. She saw buildings ahead, a gas station, a diner, maybe a way out. When she pulled into the gas station, the attendant was a woman with no face, not like it was covered. There was just nothing there. A smooth expanse of skin where features should be. Sarah screamed and drove away. She didn't stop until she reached California. When she got back to her company and filed an incident report, they told her something that made her blood go cold. Her truck's GPS data showed she'd been on that stretch of road for only 23 minutes. But her logbook, her memory, her body, everything told her it had been hours. And when they checked the truck's radio, the radio system that was supposed to be tuned to commercial CB frequencies, they found one custom frequency installed. The technician who tried to remove it said the frequency kept reappearing no matter what he did, like something was broadcasting on it and wouldn't stop. Sarah quit. She drives for a local delivery company now. She's never done a haul longer than 40 minutes. She doesn't drive at night, and she keeps her radio off. But sometimes, in her apartment, she hears it anyway. A man's voice, calm, patient, waiting for her to finish forgetting and get back on the road. These three drivers never spoke to each other. They don't know each other. But they share something. A knowledge about the highways that maps don't show and GPS can't navigate. There are roads that take more than fuel to drive. Some of them take pieces of you. Some of them take all of you, if you're a driver. If you spend your nights alone on the asphalt, watching the white lines bleed into each other, knowing that at any moment, at any exit, any truck stop, any stretch of empty highway, something could go wrong in ways that the rational world has no explanation for. You know what I'm talking about. The road remembers everything, and it's always waiting for the next driver.